Welcome to the Arifs. In this video, we're going to dive headfirst into what is essentially the ultimate true crime thriller of antiquity. We're going to look at how the most famous assassination in human history ended up backfiring spectacularly. Right off the bat, picture this chilling scene. Julius Caesar is in a crowded, chaotic market, and an old oracle delivers a legendary premonition. Beware the Ides of March. Just 5 words, but they served as a very real warning that kicked off a deadly countdown to a day that would literally alter the course of human civilization forever. So here is our murder board for this explainer. We'll be hitting these points. 1. Crowned dictator for life. 2. The liberators and the spy. 3. Omens of the Ides. 4. The point of no return. 5. And you, brute. And finally, 6. The Republic's ironic end. Okay, Section 1. Crowned dictator for life. The motive for murder. We are starting in early 44 BC. Caesar has just returned completely victorious from a brutal civil war. He is at the absolute peak of his power, right? He's reforming the calendar, handing out land to the poor, and most importantly, he's taking a new title, Dictator Perpetuo, Dictator for Life. And this absolutely terrified the elite. You have to remember the Romans carried this deep inherited 500-year-old trauma regarding a rex or a king. So, to the Senate, seeing Caesar in purple robes on a golden throne wasn't a victory lap, it was a death knell. To them, the Republic was dying, and the only logical solution was to violently remove the dictator. Now, it's actually fascinating to zoom out and look at this globally for a second. While the Roman elite were sharpening their daggers, literally ready to kill each other over their definition of freedom, halfway across the world, mainland China was thriving under the Western Han dynasty. Over there, Emperor Yuan maintained peace through a stable bureaucracy and total, absolute obedience to a single throne. Two completely opposite views on power playing out at the exact same time. Moving on to Section 2, the liberators and the spy, weaving the web. Back in Rome, behind all those silent marble pillars, over 60 powerful senators, calling themselves the liberators, were getting to work. They desperately needed a symbol for their coup, which brings us to the two Brutuses. Now, Marcus Brutus gets all the historical fame, right? He was a direct descendant of the guy who ousted Rome's last king, so he was their perfect symbolic figurehead. But Decimus Brutus, he was the real snake in the grass here. Decimus was Caesar's trusted general, a regular dinner guest, and even a backup heir in Caesar's will. He was the double agent, sitting right there at Caesar's table leaking every single private schedule to the assassins. But they still needed Marcus Brutus on board. Caesar had actually spared his life during the Civil War, so getting him to betray Caesar took some intense, shadowy psychological warfare. The conspirators basically gaslit him. They snuck into his workspace and left these anonymous, devastatingly provocative notes on his desk. Stuff like, "Brutus, are you asleep?" Caught between his personal loyalty and this massive weight of family history, Marcus finally cracked. Section 3. Omens of the Ides, ignored warnings. Let's set the scene for the night of March 14th, the eve of the assassination. It was like the universe itself was throwing up massive red flags, blazing comets tearing through the sky, thunderstorms, even reports of owls, which were a terrible omen, hanging out in the Roman Forum in broad daylight. But the most chilling warning came from inside Caesar's own home. His wife Calpurnia woke up gasping from a hyper-realistic nightmare where the house collapsed and she was holding Caesar's blood-soaked body. Seeing her completely hysterical and dealing with his own exhaustion from epilepsy, the normally skeptical Caesar finally gave in. He decided, you know what, I'm canceling the Senate meeting today. Which brings us to Section 4, the point of no return, the fatal journey. Caesar staying home would have completely derailed the plot. The conspirators are literally standing around with daggers hidden under their clothes. A delay means they get discovered and they get executed. So they deploy their secret weapon, Decimus. The timeline of this morning is just agonizing. At 8, Decimus shows up and viciously manipulates Caesar's ego. He lies, saying there's a crown waiting for him at the Senate, and asks if the great conqueror is really hiding at home because his wife had a bad dream. Caesar takes the bait. By 10 a.m., he's walking side by side with his betrayer. At 11 a.m., he smugly tells that seer, Spurina, that the Ides of March are here, and Spurina darkly replies, "The day is not over yet." And then, at 11:15 a.m., the ultimate near miss. A Greek teacher named Artemidorus actually hands Caesar a scroll listing every single killer. But Caesar is so distracted by the crowds, he never reads it. Section 5. And you, brute, the assassination. The clock runs out. Caesar arrives at the Curia Pompei, the temporary Senate building. The conspirators' plan here is incredibly precise. First, they need to deal with Mark Antony. He's Caesar's fiercely loyal, burly human shield. So a conspirator named Trebonius intentionally distracts him outside in conversation. This isolates Caesar, who confidently struts into the massive room alone while the senators bow respectfully. And then those massive wooden doors slam shut. The dictator for life sits on his golden chair, totally unaware that he's just been locked inside a slaughterhouse. A senator named Julius Caesar steps up with a fake petition. When Caesar tries to wave him away, Caesar violently lunges and rips open Caesar's toga, exposing his neck. This wasn't just a physical insult. This was the agreed-upon signal for the wolves to strike. Senator Casca attacks first from behind, but he's panicking so much he completely misses, and Caesar actually fights back, stabbing Casca in the arm with an iron quill. But the resistance is futile. Pure mass hysteria erupts. Over 20 daggers are flashing at once. The senators swarm him in a blind frenzy. They're actually cutting their own hands just trying to get a piece of him. In the end, he takes 23 stab wounds, though, crazy enough, modern historical forensics tell us that, out of all that chaos, only a single wound to the chest was actually fatal. Now, Caesar was a hardened warrior. He's fighting fiercely through this flurry of blades until he sees Marcus Brutus, a man he loved like a son. When he sees Brutus raise a dagger against him, his psychological defenses completely shatter. He stops fighting. He utters those legendary words, "And you, Brutus," pulls his toga over his face so his enemies won't see him die, and collapses at the feet of the statue of his old rival, Pompey. Section 6. The Republic's ironic end, the unintended empire. The dictator is dead. But, as you're about to see, political calculations rarely work out the way you plan them. Brutus stands there, bloody dagger in hand, cheering for freedom. He genuinely expects the streets to erupt in a massive, joyous celebration. Instead, the public is utterly horrified. They lock their doors, and Rome goes dead silent. The conspirators killed the man, sure, but they completely failed to realize they hadn't killed his ideology. So, did this save the Republic? Absolutely not. It destroyed it. Caesar's blood sparked a massive new civil war. Mark Antony and Octavian systematically hunted down the assassins. By 31 BC, the Republic was completely dead, and by 27 BC, Octavian was crowned Emperor Augustus. It's literally history's greatest irony. To prevent a single king, the Senate accidentally birthed a relentless line of absolute emperors. The shockwaves of March 15th are still felt today. I want to leave you with this final thought. Consider how an act meant to destroy absolute power ended up naming it forever. Julius Caesar fell that day, yes, but his name transformed into the highest title for world rulers, echoing as Kaiser in Germany and Tsar in Russia for thousands of years to come. Thank you for watching.